Hello everybody and welcome back to the show with me, your host Ashriel Moore, the ambassador of the African Diaspora Collective to Israel. As always, I want to continue to expose you to these various communities of African ancestry here in Israel, because most people are not even aware of the fact that we even exist here in Israel, so let alone knowing about things that are happening within these communities. This time I want to focus on the Afro Bedouin community, which are living primarily in the cities of Rahat and Segev Shalom. Now, before we go into it, I first of all want us to listen to Sheikh Aid, who's one of the sheikhs in Segev Shalom, and then we'll discuss it.
Most of the Bedouin here, most of them, they come from the Arab Gulf. They know, they can know they're not original here. They know that we are the original people here in this land. All this tribe you see the Bedouin here, you tell them. This will tell you, I'm from Arab Saudi, the original. This tribe will tell you, yeah, I'm from north of Jordan. Everybody will tell you he's not original for this land. He came, not me.
But you came. Did you originally?
They came. But me, I say I'm here. So they have to be clear. If you discuss with them, okay, they say, all of you come here, okay? Who was living this land? And before maybe 2000 and a half, there's a Hebrews. There was in this land, there was just the Bedouin, the black Bedouin like me, and the Hebrews. That's it.
So what's going on here, first of all, let me just give you a bit of background. One thing that is quite prevalent here in Israel is the anti-blackness as well. I'm not talking about the racism from, within the Israeli society, which is also very much existent, and we have discussed that in other episodes. But now I want to focus in a bit on the anti-blackness also that's happening within the Palestinian community, right? One of the things that you would hear quite often from people who identify as Palestinian, especially now since October 7th, when the conversation around the indigeneity of people to this specific land, who is, who isn't, who has the right to be here, who does not, you would hear from a lot of people who identify as Palestinian that they would say to people of African ancestry like myself, like Sheikh and other people, that we should go back to where we came from, that we should go back to Africa, a lot of them say, not even realizing, first of all, that Israel is in northeastern Africa. But that's besides the point. What Sheikh Aid is saying here is a very important point, because they've sold to the world that they are indigenous to, and I'm not talking about the political aspect. I'm saying specifically they have sold to the world that, first of all, there is a Palestinian identity that is 4,000 years old, which is not true. They said that this identity is actually connected to the ancient Philistines. The Palestinians, they say, is a continuation of the ancient Philistines, which cannot be true, because the ancient Philistines were actually a Grecian people, but these people are Arab people. So there's there's a cultural and a historic and an ethnic difference between these two peoples. So that can't be true. But besides the fact, also, the identity that they say have been for thousands of years, that's also not true. Now, everybody have the right, again, to self-identify however you would like to identify as a collective group. If everybody come together and say, okay, from now on, we are now going to be identifying as 1, 2, 3, I have no problem with that at all. But you can't take an identity and say, okay, this is an identity that is thousands of years old, when in actuality this is something that has only recently became a nationalistic identity, bringing all these peoples together. So when Sheikh Aid is actually saying in this specific instance is that, look, there were people of African ancestry here in this land, in this region. As a matter of fact, Bedouins were people of African ancestry. As a matter of fact, in addition to Bedouins, there were also Hebrews here. I'm a Hebrew. And one thing that I know about the Hebraic nation as well was that the Hebrew nation, that Abraham was the father of the Hebrews. He was, he came from the lineage of Eber, right, which means to cross over. But Abraham, the promise and also the covenant was made with Abraham. And from the moment the covenant was made with Abraham, he then had his name changed from Abram to Abraham, the father of many, or the father of many nations. And also, he was to go from where he originated, which was Ur of the Chaldeans, was Sumerian people, and come to Canaan's land. Now, Ur of the Chaldeans, we know, the Sumerians, according to their own writings, they were a people of African ancestry who had migrated from the Delta area up into the area of Sumeria, Mesopotamia, XYZ. Now, we know also that the people who originated here in this portion of land during the Canaanite era, the Canaanites, right? We know that they were also a people of African ancestry, because the church and some intellectuals and also in the Talmud, they give you the impression that people of African ancestry were cursed. That people of African ancestry were cursed, and that curse then caused them to be dark-skinned. And they say that curse is called the curse of Ham, because they say that Ham uncovered his father's nakedness, and so as a result of that, he, out of all three of the sons, Ham, Shem, and Japheth, he was cursed to be a dark-skinned person, and his brothers remained the original color, they say. Well, first of all, he was not the one who was cursed. It was his grandson who was cursed, who was Canaan. Now, if you say that he was cursed, and that's the reason why, you make these philosophical reasonings for, number one, enslaving people in the 14th and 15th century, these were the reasons that the Catholic Church came up with for being able to enslave these people, because Spain and Portugal during that period of time, they were Catholics. And so enslaving people, taking away their freedom and their liberty, did not align with the values of what a Catholic Christian is supposed to be. And so they needed then justification for why and how they are they're enslaving these people. And so they got that. They got that from the Pope. It was Pope Leo X, if I'm not mistaken. He was the one who gave that edict. And so the people, again, we know that these people were people of African ancestry. And so the nation of Israel, the Hebrew nation, who went down into Egypt, according to the biblical narrative, they went down 70 souls. Those 70 souls came back out of Egypt 430 years later, a nation of 2 million souls. These 2 million souls, they say, were a mixed multitude. A mixed multitude of who? A mixed multitude of a bunch of those Egyptian tribes who had latched on to them. Now, in addition to the fact that the Hebrew people, like Moses, for example, intermarried, intermingled with people from the other tribes, right? Specifically, Moses's wife was a Cushite, was a person of Cush. Cush was actually one of the sons of Ham, because Ham had 4 sons. He had Cush, Put, Mitzrayim, and Canaan. Those were his 4 sons. And so obviously all these people were people of African ancestry. So and they came back obviously and inhabited the land of Israel. So I'm really trying to understand when we're putting this anti-blackness to work, what is the source for saying that people of African ancestry who reside here in Israel should go back to where they came from, should go back to Africa? Africa sits on the African tectonic plate, or Israel sits on the African tectonic plate. We know that the languages that were spoken here, Hebrew, Aramaic, they fit into the category of what's called the Afro-Asiatic languages, and a subcategory within the Afro-Asiatic languages, which is the Afro-Semitic languages that were spoken here. So Sheikh is trying to understand what they're talking about. I'm trying to understand what they're talking about. And now I'm sharing with you so that you now could be able to go and do your research, and then you can try to understand what they're talking about. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment down below, and continue to march through this process with me as we continue to expose you to the existence of the communities of African ancestry here in Israel. Until then, you have a good day.